There we go. Great. So my apologies, my computer is behaving fairly slowly, but I would like to start firstly of all by acknowledging that we are meeting today on the land of the Ngunnawal people and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And we'd also like to acknowledge all Aboriginal people who have a connection with the lands in the ACT and our surrounding region, and acknowledge that the continuing contribution that those people play to the culture that we have in our city, and also to the land management, and to acknowledge that we have very much to learn from them as we go forward. Tonight's Environment Exchange is about introducing you to our Make the Switch website. We're really pleased to have you here tonight, and we want to take the opportunity to unpack the website and talk about where it comes from and what it's trying to do, and then also get into some of the detailed issues around what it takes to transition a house from being an electric gas house, so a house that's running on both electricity and gas, to a house that's running on all electric appliances. I'm going to start by providing a little bit of background to the political and climate context that was the inspiration really for this project. And then I'll introduce Kirsten Duncan from the Conservation Council, who's on the call. Kirsten, are you?
Yep, I'm waiting.
There she is. Who was the project officer who worked on the website, and she will take us through the content of the site in a bit more detail. I'm also really, really pleased that we've got two of our project collaborators here with us today. And these are two people who had input into the content on the website, and also feature in two of the videos that are on the website that start to unpack some of the issues in a little bit more detail. Firstly, Jenny Edwards from Lighthouse Architecture and Science. Jenny, give a little wave. I can't see you while I'm talking, unfortunately, but I know that you're there. Jenny's a passionate advocate of energy efficient housing, and very generously contributed both to reviewing the website text and being in one of the videos, as I discussed, and she features in the energy efficiency video. Jenny's also a big proponent of small housing, small but stylish housing, I think would be fair to say. And she's certainly produced some very beautiful houses in the job that she does. Our second guest is Ben Murphy. Ben also presented the video on hot water heat pumps, and he is an experienced electrician who runs Global Energy Training Solutions, and he trains electricians in solar and communications technologies. I'd also like to welcome Ros Malou from Climate Change and Sustainability Division of the ACT Government, so EPSDD, and Emma Humphreys. Oh, is Ros with us today? I'm just double checking. Do we have Ros? Or is it, I can't see the smart people. I'm not sure that Ros is actually here with us yet, actually. So I should clarify that, but Ros will, I'm sure if Ros does join us, she'll make herself known. And also Emma Humphreys and Bonnie Jackson from the ACT Smart Household team to talk about some of the financial supports and rebates that are available from the ACT government to help Canberra households become more energy efficient. So it's a brief presentations, and we'll have time for the questions after the speakers. And if people can please put your questions into the chat bar, it really helps us to collate the questions and gather them together. Just put the word question in capitals in front of your question in the chat bar, and then it's much easier for us to find as we go through. We do request that you keep your sound muted, just because it prevents interruptions from other people and dogs barking, all that sort of thing. And if we don't seem to have that many people, but sometimes it's useful to keep cameras off during the presentation as well, because it just means that we're using a bit less bandwidth. Okay, so just a quick introduction. Me talking about dogs and noise, excuse me. That's my dog sounding happy. Quick introduction to this project. This came out of the thinking that the ACT has reached 100% renewable electricity by 2020. And what we have is residual emissions, direct emissions that are being, in the main, generated 60% from transport and around 22% from the use of gas in homes, in home heating, cooking and hot water. So the project is really about taking people on that journey about how to transition their houses because I'm sorry, I'm sounding really distracted. I've got all sorts of background things going on here. Is about how people to transition their houses from being, being gas electric to all electric. And really looking at that through 3 different lenses, through the environmental lens, through the cost-saving lens, and through the lens of improving comfort and amenability for living in your home. We really realised that there was no one single place for people to go to get this kind of information that they needed. And there's a lot of things, lots of little things along the way, along that journey, that people can discover. But one of the primary things that we realised that people didn't know was how much would it all cost and how much would they save. And so one of the primary parts of the website is the calculator that was built at the back end that allows people to put that data in and to find out about how they can plan that journey to transition off gas electric onto all electric. Okay, so after all those, apologies for all of those background interruptions. I'm going to hand over to Kirsten now to take people through the website. And I think that Kirsten will be able to share her page, although we've got ActSmart sharing their page at the moment. So we might need ActSmart to, there we go. And now Kirsten can share her page. And I will come back to you further on during the presentation to help with questions. Thanks, Kirsten.
Thanks, Helen. As Helen says, I came on board to run this project, helping people to switch their houses from gas to all electric. I have personally made that journey myself, and part of that journey was whilst researching and writing for this website. The 3 key messages that we wanted to communicate in the Make the Switch site are about how households can save money, which is a big, obviously a big factor for a lot of people. Energy bills continue to increase as prices go up over the years. The second key message is about the comfort and efficiency that you can gain by switching to electric appliances. And the third message is about taking action on climate change. So the front page of the website, which I hope you can now see here on my screen, has those 3 messages, and you can delve into some deeper information through each of those topics. There's a little bit more of a blurb about who the site's aimed for, but essentially it's about anyone who lives in a building with gas. If you're outside of the ACT, it's still relevant because the message is about the technology and the climate are all still relevant regardless of where you live. In the ACT, of course, we have 100% renewable electricity now, so it's you can have an immediate effect on climate emissions by switching to electric appliances rather than polluting fossil gas. We've also, down in the website, we have a number of case studies of different families who have switched some or all of their appliances. And I'd just like to stress that we have no commercial affiliations with this site. We're not an energy company. We're not an appliance company. We don't receive any kickbacks or anything. So this is entirely driven by our concern for the environment and also helping families to transition to a clean society. And the people who have generously shared their stories with us are mostly motivated by the same ideas. So you can delve more deeply into why you should make the switch from gas. So this page breaks up those 3 topics and goes into a little bit more detail about each of the 3 key reasons. Taking action on climate change, for instance, so there's a little bit of an explanation there about what natural gas is, or so-called natural gas. Being methane is a major pollutant and contributor to climate change. So you can explore a little bit more there about where gas comes from and the impacts that it has on the environment. We have this quite extensive section here on myth busting. So what we wanted to tackle was a lot of the common questions that people have about gas and about the new electric technologies that are replacing gas. So we cover off comparisons between the technologies, the environmental impacts. We also address the question of proposed substitutes for gas, hydrogen and biogas, and why the Conservation Council has taken the position of not recommending those gases for residential use. Electric appliances are more efficient in converting energy to heat use in our homes than making hydrogen and then piping it into our homes. And there are some other reasons in there as well. So if you're interested in that topic about why shouldn't we hold out for hydrogen as a miracle cure, you can have a good read in that section there. We've got questions in here that address whether heat pumps work in cold climates, and Ben Murphy, who will talk to us a bit more about that technology when we get to his presentation. We talk about induction cooking and whether you can still take your traditional foods, your favourite recipes, and how you can adapt them to induction cooktops. It's really just about learning how to use the new technology the same way that you would learn how to use, a new smartphone or a new laptop. It's just a case of getting to know the technology and adapting how you interact with it. There's also some information in here for architects, builders, installers, and also for renters and landlords. Often, if you're in a rental situation, you may feel like you don't have a lot of control over the energy options that you have available to you. So we've got some tips in there about how you can at least reduce your gas usage and some alternatives that you might like to explore, and how to talk about it with your landlord as well. So that covers kind of why you might like to do things. And then we get into the really practical side of how you can actually go about changing over your appliances. Most Canberra households do have gas, and decades ago we were sold gas as being the clean, efficient energy source. So we know that it's pretty common for Canberra households to have gas heating, gas hot water, and gas cooking. So this little section here covers those three topics. We also look at energy efficiency, because if you switch over your gas appliance to an electric appliance, say an electric heater, but you haven't done this energy efficiency measures, you still may have quite large energy bills. So Jenny's going to talk to us in a bit more detail about those aspects. And then we've got this section here about how to close your gas account. So for us, this is kind of like the trifecta. You've switched your heating, your hot water, and your cooking. Then you get to close your gas account, and you will immediately then save. It's about $320 a year in the ACT at the moment for that annual gas connection supply charge. And so you can save that even if you make no other efficiency measures, or you're guaranteed to save that $320 a year. We also have a downloadable guide here, so you can just you can print this off from our website. We do also have hard copies of this guide in our office, so if you wanted, if you're unable to print it yourself, just get in contact with us and we can shoot you some copies of this. So this is a really practical guide for you to be able to take to your family at the kitchen table and talk about the technologies and how you might go about changing. and you can work your way through this action plan. And so we break it down into 3 nice easy steps, which is about identifying your gas appliances and what your consumptions are. So generally speaking, the highest gas use in a home is going to be for heating, followed by hot water, and your lowest gas use is going to be cooking generally. And then we give some tips there about how to go about choosing alternative appliances. So what are some of the factors that you might want to consider, such as how big are the rooms that you need to heat, or how many pots you like to cook with at a time. You know, some people, you know, do have 3 or 4 different pots going at once. Others might be, you know, 1 pot cook and all they usually make is scrambled eggs or something. So also, you know, setting a budget for your family, and, you know, any other important criteria you have. I'm not sure if you can see my 10-year-old just crawled her way in and out of the room here. She really likes to cook scrambled eggs. And so safety was definitely a factor for our family. And then setting a timeline for those replacements. So generally speaking, yes, there are upfront costs, obviously, with buying and installing appliances, but the savings that you then make in energy use will help you to then pay for the next appliance. So you can stage those replacements over, you know, 3 to 5 years or 5 to 10 years, whatever suits your budget. And perhaps you've got planned renovations, or perhaps you know that your hot water service, you know, is now 20 years old and you were looking at replacing it in another 3 to 5 years. You might like to then plan a replacement there for a heat pump. We also have available some information here about energy rebates and the financial supports that are available to help families make the switch. And our ActSmart team will talk through some of those programs. There are a number of programs available through ActSmart for not just not just gas appliances, but other energy efficiency measures that you can make around your home. We've got some other resources here, which include Your Home, which is a fantastic guide put together by the Australian government for environmentally sustainable homes. We've got some other tips there about energyrating.gov, where you can go and research the energy efficiency of appliances that you're considering buying, and some other really great resources there from all over the country, both non-profit and government resources. One of the questions I had when switching over my appliances was, what happens to my old ones? So we've got the tip there to go and check out Recyclopedia, which is the ACT government resource for recycling, but also talk to your installer as well about what they do, because you've got some refrigerant inside old heat pumps, and you've also got really good metals that can be recycled as well. So now getting to the real heart of the website is the calculator. And I hope that some of you at least have already had a play with this. We've seen, we get notified when anyone goes through this process. And so we've seen people have a really great time playing around, going back and changing the numbers and just seeing what comes up. So there are 2 different ways to go through this calculator. One is if you are replacing appliances in your existing home, and the alternative is to go through the building a new home pathway. So we recommend, you know, if you are building a new home, do go all electric. It's a great opportunity for you to just not even take up the option of gas. But what I'll go through today is the replace existing appliances pathway here. So you just go click go to enter the calculator, and then this just steps you through in a quite simple way. And we've created this calculator so that the assumptions that are reasonably predictable, are all built in for you. So all you need to do is make your choices, really. So you can just go through a default pathway using this typical annual use, and that will just use some predetermined preset figures for you, and that will give you at least a ballpark idea of what the installation costs are going to be and what the savings are going to be. If you want a somewhat more accurate estimate, go through the quarterly billing pathway. And what that does is it opens this dialogue here where you can put in your 4 annual gas bills. And if you need some help finding those numbers on your gas bill, we have here a little click open, how to read your gas bill, and that has a little representation there of a gas bill, and it shows you which numbers are useful for this calculator. So just close back out of that. Now I have grabbed some numbers off my old gas bills, so I'm just going to quickly plug those into there. These numbers may or may not be the same. You can find them yourself on your own bill. You can see what difference you might be able to make. 7 and 4,000, there we go. So you can see there, oops, sorry, that was a typo. So you can see there that there is, you know, a fair bit of variation over the seasons, particularly in Canberra. We have quite high gas usage typically in winter for our heating. Oops. Sorry, I'll just double check that I've actually entered all of those correctly. There we go. Now you can change the electricity tariff. We've put in this default of 22.5 cents per kilowatt hour based on ActuAGL's base tariff. But if you have typically a higher or typically a lower electricity tariff, you can change that there. So we just click through to next, and then you select your current gas appliances. So I'm just going to select the first option in each case, which is the typical appliance. You'll see here that the usage pre-filled. Now again, you can change that if you know that you don't use your gas heater very much, but maybe you use more than the average hot water, for instance. And then we come through to selecting electric appliances. We recommend induction cooking rather than electric ceramic, but it is there as an option. Heat pump hot water as being the most efficient, and reverse cycle air conditioning, otherwise known as a heat pump, is there. And you also then have the opportunity to select your preferred price point. If you want to go for a high-end appliance, or you just want to stick with a really low budget. And this important one here, close your gas account. You want that to be yes. So go through to next. And then what you get is a table here showing your estimated savings. And so what you can see is the green column in the middle, savings on running costs over 10 years, just on those basic sort of appliance choices that I put in. I've got a savings here of about $4,500. And you can also see that we've estimated the cost to replace gas with chosen electric is $6,000 there, and avoided greenhouse gas emissions of 7,500 kilograms of carbon dioxide. So it's quite significant when you start adding it up over a long period of time. So that covers the most of the website. There's a bit more there, detail about the project itself. There's the team who helped put the website together, and then there are the assumptions about how we created that calculator and the default data that is informing those calculations. We also have social media, so you can share this, get social and make the pledge. So if you are making the switch, we'd love you to share it on social media. And we'd also love it if people came back and told us their stories as well. So that, because our the whole site is informed by people's individual experiences. So that'll cover it for now. I'm going to hand back to Helen to introduce our next speaker.
Sorry, thanks, Kirsten. Apologies, I had to leave you in the middle of that. So I'm actually going to run out. This is very ironic that I'm going to run out of power during this presentation. So if I don't end up coming back, my apologies, and I'm going to have to get you to facilitate. But I can't run the computer on gas either, so it doesn't make me feel too bad. I'd like to introduce now Jenny Edwards from Lighthouse Architecture and Science. As I said earlier, Jenny is passionate about energy efficiency, and she has a background in research, education and policy. She was an innovator in the building industry because she was one of the first people to introduce air leakage testing and thermal imaging in the local construction industry. She combines the best of energy science with sustainable house design in her award-winning firm, Lighthouse Architecture and Science. Jenny is an ACT licensed building energy efficiency assessor and an advisor on the Residential Technical Advisory Group for the Building Code Energy Performance Trajectory Project. That's quite a mouthful, Jenny. I'm going to throw to Jenny now, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about home energy efficiency and how electric appliances fit in that context. Thanks, Jenny.
Great, thanks, Helen, and thanks, Kirsten, for that fantastic tour of the Make the Switch website, which really is a sensational resource, and I really encourage everyone to check it out. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, so most of my presentation is going to be pretty images, because I feel my job really is to inspire people and show people that all electric, sustainable, energy efficient homes aren't weird and wacky. They're just great houses, and they make sense. So what you can see in front of you is a sign that we put up on all of our projects, but I have added the all electric on top because I really think I need to start adding that into the description for our projects, because by and large all the new ones are all electric, and the vast majority of renovation and extensions are also making that switch from gas to electric. And I should say most people are most familiar with us because of our new build work, but actually 3/4 of our work is renovation work, from tiny budgets to retrofit projects focused just on thermal upgrades and getting off gas and things, through to renovations, extensions, and then only a small percentage is actually the new build stuff. But moving on. So I want to highlight again that what people want is a better homes. You know, everyone, a home is incredibly important place. It's where you spend most of your time with the people you love. It's your single biggest investment. So when we ask people what they want in a home, these are the sorts of words they use to describe them. And of course, energy efficiency and sustainability and all electric actually goes hand in hand with all of these things. So today, I'm just going to talk about two main things. And again, these two things go together. One, efficiency of the house, and two, efficiency of the appliances that you use in the house. Starting with the house. We've seen some stats already. This is another take on how much energy is used for heating and cooling in Canberra. This one suggests around 62% for heating and cooling, predominantly heating, around 16% for water and 3% for cooking. No surprise there in our extreme climate that we do use most of our energy on heating. Of course, you should make your house more efficient. You should insulate it. You should consider improving your glazing. You should draft seal. You should do all those simple bang for buck measures that really help keep your house warm in winter and cool in summer. And I'm not going to dwell on those now, but there's a whole heap of really sensible things that you can do to reduce the amount of energy you need in your house, for starters. And we are called Lighthouse Architecture and Science because we integrate a scientific approach into all of our design work. Again, whether it's retrofit projects through to the major, new builds. We use thermal performance modelling to really optimise the designs at every stage using the energy efficiency rating software or thermal simulation software. Really useful to optimise eaves and projections and glazing areas, you name it. Good science. We also do the physical testing of houses. So I've been in and out of lots and lots of houses across Canberra over the last decade, and sadly seen classic gaps in the bottom left-hand corner. You can see some classic gaps in insulation. That was a fancy renovation in Griffith, actually, that one, brand new. And then on the right-hand side, you can see me doing an air leakage test. But onto the more interesting things in terms of getting off gas. You've made your house more efficient. Now you want to consider your appliances. In a new build, as we've already said several times, it's a no-brainer to go all electric. For a renovation, we find most of the clients that contact us are in houses, older houses that might have old central ducted gas heating, so which is close to being on the way out, and they realise they can improve their house to the point where they don't need a central heating and cooling system. So usually that goes. The heat pump, depending on where they're at. I was at a project this morning, clients had just replaced with a new gas system. So in that case, we will plan down the track to replace that with electric. If they've got an old system, we go to a heat pump hot water system. And of course, we're all for the induction cooking, although that is often the thing that meets the greatest opposition, which you might chat about later. The electric appliances are so much more efficient. So the heat pumps for heating, in this graph, which I pinched from Renew, thanks to the team at Renew, they have some great resources about switching from gas to electricity as well. This slide shows you that compared to all of those forms of gas ducted heating and old gas heating, a reverse cycle air conditioner is somewhere between 6.5 to 14 times more efficient, because it has a coefficient of performance of around 5.5, or can be 5.5. So 1 unit of energy in, you get 5.5 units of energy out. They're amazing pieces of technology. Ben might talk about that more. And same with hot water. Again, they're just so much more efficient than the gas systems. I'll move along. I want now to show you a heap of images to inspire you. So these are projects around Canberra, a mix of renovations and new builds. This is a project that we've only just completed in the last few months, and I was there at the end of last week and took this shot in the backyard. So you can see on the right-hand side is a Sandon hot water heat pump, and on the left-hand side is the external unit for a reverse cycle split system, a reverse cycle air conditioning unit inside that room. This house actually has two split systems, and it's also gone to induction cooking. So it used to have central ducted gas, it used to have gas hot water, and it used to have gas cooking. All of them are now gone. At the same time with this project, we also upgraded the thermal envelope. So we insulated it really well, we draft sealed really well, and we upgraded the glazing. So the energy efficiency rating lifted from 3.8 stars all the way up to 7.7. So that's a predicted reduction in the heating requirements for this house of 65%, and cooling a reduction of 85%. So I really encourage people that existing houses in Canberra, most of them actually have great potential for significant thermal improvements. So don't give up on your old 1960s and 1970s brick veneer homes. They have great potential. That's just a shot inside to show you that this little house also did switch to induction cooking. Another example, this one's my own home. Helen mentioned earlier that we're quite focused on space efficiency, so smaller, smarter, sustainable housing. So it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, 150 square metres on a 405 square metre block. It's a joy to live in. It is, of course, all electric. And last year I did a comparison with, I think it was 12 or 13 other Canberra families, same sort of makeup as my family, living in a house around the same size, but dual fuel houses, so gas and electric houses, and compared their winter energy consumption to my own home. And my house consumed less than 20% of the average consumption of that other group of houses. Some of them were much more again, others were not so bad, but my house outperformed them considerably. And that in terms of energy costs, my energy costs were less than a third of theirs. So significant savings. So it's about $1,000 just in that quarter saved. And there's actually an article about my place with the Renew magazine, which talks about that a bit more, which is what's down the right-hand corner. But moving on to other examples. This is a renovation in Campbell, a double brick house, previously very poorly insulated, previously had ducted gas heating, evaporative cooling, still has a gas, cool, thank you, Kirsten, still has a gas hot water system because it was relatively new. So the clients, again, are planning to replace that, but they've got induction cooking and now have a split system, and the house performs beautifully. This is a new build, all electric, another great example of a really comfortable all electric home. This is one that I'm most proud of at the moment. Winner of the National Renovation Award, Green Smart Award, 115 square metre house, again, had gas for everything, for heating, for hot water and for cooking. We switched to all electric and lifted the EER rating from 3.6 to 7.6 in this case, and the house performs incredibly well. There's a couple more shots. It also won an Architecture People's Choice Award. Another home that won an award this year, this one generates way more electricity than it uses. It's got an 8 kilowatt system on the roof and a battery, and requires very, very little energy to maintain it at comfortable temperatures, and of course is all electric. Another renovation, classic duplex in Dixon, same story. Moved to all electric, house is much more comfortable, bills are much lower. Another all electric new place in O'Connor, and I could go on. So it's not unusual stuff. So whenever you're renovating or if you're considering going new, it really makes sense to go all electric, or to certainly plan for that transition, and make sure you maximise the energy efficiency as well. And I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Jenny. That was fantastic. Yeah, I always love seeing pictures of other people's beautiful homes, and so nice to see them being so energy efficient, but also not enormous, which is great. It would be great to reverse that trend of building enormous houses that consume huge amounts of electricity. So I'd now like to, we've lost Helen for the moment. I'm hoping she'll rejoin us. But I'd now like to introduce Ben Murphy, who is the proprietor and head trainer at Global Energy Training Solutions, specialising in electrical apprenticeships and post-trade training in renewable energy and telecommunications, based right here in Canberra. Ben was also one of our very generous contributors to the Make the Switch project, and presented a video for us, which you can find on our site, about hot water heat pumps. Ben's a licensed electrician and renewable and sustainable energy advocate. So I'd like to hand over now to you, Ben.
Thank you, Kirsten and Jenny. Okay, I'll take through some of the electrical side of things and promote some of these technologies. Certainly, following on from Jenny's points, you can see in my left-hand column here, the draft proofing insulation being right up there on the top of the list. It's sort of a non-electrical thing you can do to save money on your electricity bill. So if you break this down, how are we going to save electricity? How are we going to save money? Energy efficiency. Through energy efficiency, you can see that it's kilowatts times hours is of course your kilowatt hours, and then of course your unit price for your electricity. Note that there's no gas in this. I think that's just an extra unwanted cost.
Ben, I hate to interrupt. We can't actually see your slides at the moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I missed the share button. How about now?
Looks good. Thanks.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so you can see kilowatts times hours times the unit price is what we pay our electricity bill in. So if you want to tackle your electricity bill, you can tackle it in any one of those three areas. And of course, energy efficiency is an obvious one. And the ones I'll be talking to today is the hot water and the space heating, as well as the induction cooktops. With on the right-hand column, the getting cheaper electricity, solar is something that you can use to run your hot water and air conditioning, whereas you just won't have that option with gas. And of course, the other way to try and reduce energy is the amount of time that you've got it on. So you can see the middle column there, and you see this a lot of in industrial settings where we use timers and sensors to turn equipment on and off. Now, to really understand why electric is best, we should look at the coefficient of performance for various equipment. So the old electric heating, it's 1,000 watts of electrical energy in, giving you 1,000 joules per second out, giving you a coefficient performance of 1. And that's the same for any type of heater. There's no electric heater that's any more efficient than the other, whether it be a fan heater or a column heater or something like that. Gas is even worse. You'll have heat lost in the flute, and so a coefficient performance could typically be about 0.8. But when you hit the heat pump, that's where we're not creating heat. That's the difference. We're using the electric effect of electricity. We're using the magnetic effect to run a motor, and that motor is compressing gas, and we're actually moving heat that was already existing in the air. So 1,000 watts to power a motor can give you 4,000 to 5,000 joules per second of heat energy out. And once you understand that, it really makes it a lot more sense as to why you want to switch to electric. You don't have this option with gas. But the same thing with your resistive electric hot water. It's entirely consuming a lot more than it needs to. A little bit more on that. The compressor is compressing this gas, and as it turns into a liquid, it gives off heat, and that's quite easy. We can blow that inside, keep the house warm. We can put that into the hot water system. When it's in the other cycle, if you let that gas expand, it takes heat from the outside air. And that's basically what we're doing. We're not creating heat, we're taking heat and moving it around, hence the term heat pump, making it so much more efficient. All right, looking at the installation of it, you've basically got the two units, the indoor unit and the outdoor unit. The indoor unit, put some notes down the bottom there saying it's just a little bit cheaper for you if you can have them back to back. There's less pipes to run. So if you're looking at an external wall in the bedroom, for example, that would be a great wall to have it on. A note back to the bushfires there is people with air conditioners have a lot better chance of sleeping than people with evaporative coolers, because there is no exchange of air between the outside. It's really just the heat that's blown off the pipes, or the cold air that comes off when you take the heat out of the air as it's blown through the fans. It's pretty easy to install. From my diagram there, you can see there's the isolator. So that's my job as the electrician, would be to run the cables to there from the switchboard. It's not a particularly difficult job, especially on an outside wall. And the aircon mechanic will take the rest of the job, where they'll run a duct up the wall and away you go. You can mount it on the ground, on a wall, on the roof, etc. Ducting is a possibility. It's actually not my favorite way of doing it. I'll explain a bit later. But if you are to duct it, you can ask for higher R-value ducts, which are readily available, but not always promoted by the aircon mechanic companies. And the zoning, to understand what zoning is, you can see on the right-hand side there's a damper. Essentially, that will block off most of the heat going into rooms that you don't want it to. So when I think of a reverse cycle air conditioning ducted system without zoning, it's probably quite inefficient in a way. I mean, it's really heating all of the rooms, and then not with no choice of what to do. And of course, a lot of the gas ducted systems are exactly that. You turn it on and you heat everything. One thing of interest is that the smaller the air conditioner, the higher its efficiency, which is counterintuitive. And but here's an example of comparing some units. It's quite modern units. So the 2.8 kilowatt system, that's the heat, not the electricity in. That's the heat output. Has quite a higher coefficient of performance of 4.8. Whereas when you're looking at the 10 kilowatt, it's got a much lower coefficient of performance, about 3.3. That means if you are selecting a big ducted system on the outside, then you might have a lower efficiency. And therefore, I'd recommend, if you can, to put a split system in every room. And I think for most houses, if you had one in the lounge room and one in the master bedroom, you'd probably use that as your main heating source, and it might be okay. But you could certainly put one in every bedroom, which is the more efficient way. You only turn on the ones you need. There's no losses in the duct, and you have a higher coefficient performance. I guess the negative is that you have lots of outdoor units on the outside of the house, which can well, it looks maybe a little bit funny than one ducted system. But in all other aspects, this smaller split systems are the way to go. Looking at the heat pump hot water system is a fantastic way to use the same principle of taking heat already existing in the air rather than creating it by burning gas or through resistive heating. And that's these heat pumps will have, the good quality ones will typically have a coefficient of performance of 5. I mean, that's a staggering 5 times more efficient than your current resistive heater, and maybe more than 5 times more efficient than gas heater. It's absolutely staggering, and will work in cold climates. They're absolutely, there'll be thousands of them in Canberra that are currently working in cold climates. Don't fall for that myth. They don't work. They may have a slightly lower efficiency in the middle of winter, but you certainly get those gains back in summer when they have to hardly work at all to get the heat out of the air. And one advantage of a heat pump hot water system is it's so easy to install. You can just put it back where the old one was. If it's gas, you may need a new electric circuit, but if it's a resistive electric heater, you can literally just swap it off and put the new one on. And instead of pulling about 20 amps of current, it'll pull about 4 amps of current. So they're very cheap. And in fact, what the advantage there is that you don't have to, well, I guess the advantage is you can have solar and use your roof space for solar. And it's certainly a lot less expensive than a solar hot water system. So I would recommend solar panels and a heat pump over solar hot water. Very quickly on time clocks, and I think that's the beauty of once you've got solar, is you can start to think, well, I'll run my heat pump hot water system during the day. Mine's on a time clock from 10 till 2, and I pretty much get my entire electricity off a very, very cheap source, which is my solar. And time clocks can be used for a lot of things. Some of the heat pumps already have them inbuilt, or you can set them up pretty easily as an electrician. Just a small connection in a switchboard. And of course, the other great thing is electric vehicles. I currently have an electric vehicle, and I drain the battery out from Monday to Friday, and I plug it in on the weekend, and I'll probably charge it up Saturday off solar, and literally get driving around town on the sunshine. But again, that's a time of use thing. So one of the great things about switching to electric is you can use the cheap electricity and store it. Once you've tried induction, there really is no reason to have gas. And the induction cooktop is better than gas in thermodynamics. I'm not sure why people hold on to this idea of cooking with gas when the induction cooktop will cook faster and simmer lower. So based on thermodynamics, it's better than gas. And I think that what people are doing is comparing gas to resistive electric heating and resistive cooking. And yes, maybe gas is better, but gas is definitely not better than induction. With induction, there's a small energy efficiency improvement, but not huge. I think the real advantage is turning off your gas and saving that gas connection. As you can see in this diagram, we're using the magnetic effect of electric current. So the only thing that heats is the pan, and that gets up a little bit of efficiency. Certainly, it is amazingly fast at how quick it will boil water. As you can see in a couple of these pictures, there's plenty of information out there on how low it can go and how high it can go in its thermodynamics. You can use your old cookware some of the time. Aluminium won't, stainless steel won't. Basically, if a magnet attaches to it, then it will be absolutely suitable. From an electrician's perspective, not all electricians know this, I think. You may not need a new circuit. Sometimes the electrician says you will need a new circuit to put in induction because it's a bigger load. I recommend checking out this table from AS3000. Certainly, if it's under 8 kilowatts, a 20 amp circuit, which is probably what you already have, unless it's gas, should be fine. The only thing, of course, is you might need an isolation switch. Otherwise, it will swap out for gas, like for like. You won't notice the difference. One size fits most, and an isolation switch is not particularly difficult to install if needed. Hopefully, you can get lots of questions during the questions time. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Ben. Okay, so before we move on to hearing from the ACSMART team, I just quickly wanted to bring people up to speed with what the new commitments have been with the new parliamentary agreement since the ACT election. So there is now a commitment to phase out fossil fuel gas in the ACT by 2045. That was the 2019 commitment in the climate change strategy. But also now there are going to be moves afoot to legislate to prevent new gas mains network connections in future stages of greenfield development. Now that used to be mandated up until a year ago. Now it's not mandated, but what we are expecting is that that will now be prohibited. So there won't be any new gas going into new suburbs, any new infrastructure. And in addition to that, the government's also committed to starting a transition project over the next 2 years to ensure that all infill developments, so new residential developments in established suburbs, don't have a new gas mains connection put in. So that's really exciting from an environmental perspective because it means that we're not actually bringing new people onto the gas network. But it still leaves us with this challenge of how we transition those of us that have gas in our houses, how we transition off that network onto all electric and in the ACT onto renewables. So I just wanted to just let people know about that if you hadn't caught up with where that was up to. I'm now going to introduce our next speakers, which is the team from ACSMART. So I'm going to run back to the right page. There we go. There they are, the ACSMART Households team. Hello. I can see you and recognise you now. And Ros, you are there. That's great. Is that Ros?
Yep.
Right.
Sorry.
You're very small. You're about an inch tall, but I think it was you. So
that's all right.
So I'm going to hand over to the ACSMART team. Emma Humphries is the director of the ACSMART Households team, and Bonnie Jackson is the assistant acting director. They're going to give us an overview of the ACSMART programs that are available for home energy efficiency. And Ros Malouf has also joined us, and she's the senior director of the program delivery unit in climate change and sustainability division of the Environment Planning and Sustainable Development Directorate. Wow, Ros, I don't know how you get all of that on the bottom of your email. That's extraordinary.
I tend to not say it very often, Helen, just quietly. I think you've done a great job.
So I'm going to, with no further ado, I'm going to hand over to them to just unpack a little bit about what's available in the ACT in terms of financial assistance. And some of those are ACT related programs, and there's also federal incentives that are available, which I'm sure that they can speak to. If not, we can take questions. So over to you guys.
So thank you for having us today. This is an opportunity for us to speak to people about the probably realities of what we do and share some of the learnings that we have. So as Helen said, I'm the Senior Director of the Program Delivery team within Sustainability Programs area. So we look after business, households, schools and community, trying to think of all the things that we have, wastewater, energy, and a bunch of programs on our 100% renewable targets and innovation in renewable energies and the like. I suppose what we're here for today is to really explain some of the things that we do, and they are changing, and they're changing all the time. As Helen said, we have a parliamentary agreement, which you've seen for as long as we've seen. So we're unpacking that at the moment, trying to understand what we need to deliver to the community and what the government's agreed to. So I suppose our work in ACSmart is a watch this space kind of activity. We have a ACSmart Facebook page and also an ACSmart website where we try and keep things up to date as much as we can, so that the community know at all times what's available to them. So the suite of programs is 17 different programs available to businesses, households, schools and community groups, and including grants and rebates and webinars and online tools and help yourselves type products similar to the product that you saw earlier in the presentation. There's also just some free advice. So pick the phone up, make a phone call, and we can answer any of your questions anytime on loads of different sustainability options. We can speak to people at build, we can speak to people at renovations on all types of options they might have. And Bonnie and Emma will explain a little bit more about those options available to you. But if you're ever stuck, I suppose I can only implore for you to pick up the phone and ring the ACSmart team. They have a wealth of information and they are very up to date, so they can answer that question at any time. And they're a friendly bunch to talk to, so I wouldn't be shy. They'll talk all day about sustainability with just about anyone. So I'll hand over to Emma just to explain a little bit about what her team does, and then over to Bonnie.
Excellent, thanks, Ros. I'll just do a bit of a call out to my team and say I am very lucky to be the director of the best team in the ACT government. That's no lie, that's fact. So the team that I work with, I've got 13, 14 team members, depending on the day, who work across the energy efficiency improvement scheme, household programs and low-income household programs, as well as the data work that we have a gentleman that looks after. Data is very important to us because we want to make sure that any of the programs that we provide are robust and have strong facts behind them that help us develop and improve our programs as we go along. So the energy efficiency improvement scheme is a scheme where there is a requirement on retailers that sell energy within the ACT to provide either activities and services or a funding towards other programs that we do through ACSmart programs. Currently, the activities that are being delivered by our one tier one retailer, which is ActuAGL, split systems, ducted reverse cycle systems, upgrades of ductwork, hot water systems, commercial lighting and fridge buyback, as well as a unique program within housing where we're working with housing to upgrade split systems in their properties to try and get some of their tenants ahead in the game. I'll leave the household programs to Bonnie because she's all over those, but the other team I have is the low income household team, and they look after the solar for low income, the household energy efficiency program, which is delivered by St Vincent de Paul, the NEALS, so the no interest loans programs, which is done by Care Financial and the Salvation Army, the public housing, another public housing project that we're working on. And we are just about to finalise a stimulus package that we got through the COVID stimulus work on the solar for housing. So we have about to complete installing 2 big systems one on a unit block and one on a set of townhouses, as well as 9 individual properties, and that's making a massive impact. And the next stage of that project that we're hoping to do is try and get those particular individual houses off gas altogether to try and, again, give those tenants a leg up. So I'll turn over to Bonnie for now, but if you've got any questions around those programs, just put it in the chat and I can answer them from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Hi, everyone. I'm Bonnie. I'm currently acting manager of the ACSmart Households program. So I'm not new to ACSMART, but I've just been in this role since April this year, which you can appreciate through this year has been a bit challenging in terms of trying to come up with new ways to present some of our program activities, such as our workshops, which are now happening online, but I'll talk about those in a minute. So as part of the households program, we have the ACSMART Sustainable Home Advice program. So we have a technical officer within the team, Dan, who can take, like Ros talked about, you can call up on our 1300 number that we can show you on the contacts page at the end, to ask all kinds of energy efficiency questions for your home, sustainability questions, questions about garden. We've recently just done a webinar on electric vehicles. So we're kind of expanding the range of topics and advice we're giving in that space now too, which is great. So that phone number is available 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. It's a completely free service as well. Or you can email us at act.gov.au as well, if you don't want to call. As part of that program, we also offer free in-home energy assessments. So Will is our current officer that or contractor that goes out and does in-home assessments 3 days a week at the moment. So again, if you're interested in booking a free home energy assessment, again, call us on our number or send us an email, and we will come out and meet you in your home, or has been offering those virtually through COVID. So whatever your preference might be. If you're not sure if you're after a full sort of assessment or visit to your home, again, just call the number and he can take more sort of information over the phone and assess whether he should come out and how he might be able to help you through phone or email. We've also got the wood heater, the ACSMART wood heater replacement program. So that program offers a number of different level of rebates, whether you remove your wood heater, right up to $1,250 if you replace it with a reverse cycle air conditioning system. So again, all of that information is on, sorry, I'm just fixing my computer, is on our website if you're interested in that. We have also just recently, or sort of in the last few months, July, launched a bit of an extension, I guess, to the ASHA program, which is a program tailored for renters in the ACT. So we are working with the Australian Energy Foundation, who are delivering the program with us. So that is, again, in-home assessments for renters. So we have someone that will come out to your home, do a roughly a 60-minute assessment, or you can do those over the phone. So all the information for the renters program is also available on the website, and the booking for those is through AEF. So Kirsten, if you just go to the See All Initiatives link there, just in that, yep. So this is the best sort of page on our website to go to that clearly displays all the different programs and initiatives as part of the ACSMART suite of programs. And if you just look at each heading, you should be able to clearly find information on each of those ones I've just mentioned as well. So the renters program is on there as a separate tile. And we are in the next, we'll hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end of the year, watch this space, we'll be launching an online tool for the renters program. So you, and it's not just for renters, homeowners, landlords can also use the tool, and you can do your own home assessment in your own time, at home, and then a report will be generated and sent to you as part of that process. So watch out for more announcements and information around that tool. It's a really unique thing that we'll have, and yeah, we'll let you know, or hopefully information will come out soon about that. We also have like I sort of mentioned, our webinars. So during COVID, we are now currently doing all of our, what are usually face-to-face workshops through WebEx, so online, roughly every 2 to 3 weeks on a variety of different topics. We usually promote those out through our ACSMART Facebook, on the website, and through community organisation and partner newsletters. But the best place to check out what's coming up is on the website. So they're always on the homepage of the website, and you just register for those. And all of them have been recorded. So if you would like to go back and see the ones we've done in the past few months, there's a list on the ACSMART website. And again, that can be found on that tile, that page with all the tiles we just had up. So just look out for ACSMART webinars. Yeah. Sorry, Emma was just reminding me about a couple of other web tools we have. We've also got the Water Right Garden tool and the plant selector tool, sorry, the garden plant selector tool. So they also sit on the ACSMART website. Really great resources. The plant selector tool lists a number of different variety of plants that you might consider growing in your garden, images, descriptions of the plants, best times to grow them. So that's another great and useful tool, especially if you're just starting out or you're considering getting back in the garden if you're at home a bit more at the moment. And we also have the Eco Challenge tool. So that's a tool that again sits on, you can find more information on the website, but it's a whole, you register to that, and there's a whole lot of fun challenges that you can do individually or with your family members, get the kids involved. If you've got any questions around that, let us know. Sometimes throughout the year we run certain campaigns around different challenges in that tool. So again, watch out for more information about those in the new year.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Emma and Bonnie and Roz, much appreciated. We might throw to some questions just because we've got a few questions that have queued up a little bit and we haven't we have gathered them here. So I might just throw to some questions. If you guys are happy to take questions, that would be great.
Sure.
I will just grab up the first one. So Ben, this is probably one for you. It's quite technical. Jenny, you might have a view on this one as well. Warm air rises, cold air falls. So it makes sense to have cooling in the ceiling and heating in the floor, does it? And can reverse cycle air conditioning do that? I know that you can get reverse cycle air conditioners that are ground mounted, but what are the benefits?
Yeah, there are ground mounted reverse cycle air conditioners. I know someone who has one. I think it's a slightly lower efficiency, but it certainly comes out and disperses. The wall mounted systems do try to disperse the air around the room. I'd say it's mostly a non-issue, as in there's no real noticeable difference. Like you don't put your hand up and feel warm and put your hand down and feel cold. Like there'll be a slight difference in temperature, but I think the air's moving around enough that it's just really a non-issue. If you have reverse cycle air conditioning, you will feel warm at home.
Yeah, I agree with Ben. I don't think it's an issue. You know, my house, I have one reverse cycle air conditioner, one single split system, 3.5 kilowatt wall mounted, that does a beautiful job. It's my primary source of heating. It does a great job, and the new units these days have fantastic control over the direction the air moves around really well. And I always have my ceiling fans on very low, or not always, but most of the time when I'm using my reverse cycle system. So the main thing I'd say is,
I would agree with that as well. I think the ceiling fan shouldn't be discounted in a way to maximise the cool or hot air that you're generating and moving it around. It certainly works very well, and we found that to work across the board.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Jenny, that kind of leads us to the next question, which somebody's put up here, which is that ducted evaporative cooling and ducted gas is very expensive to replace. And I guess most of us, when we think about those two kinds of systems, we are thinking whole of house systems. And you've sort of touched on the fact that you've got a house, but you've only got one single split system unit. And the question is, how do we justify the cost of it if we're switching over from those whole of house systems? The person's asked, do they go for 2 dual reverse cycles instead? Or does adding solar make it stack up dollars wise? I'm guessing you're going to go in energy efficiency first, yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah, spend your get your bang for buck out of insulating your house, doing basic draft sealing, upgrading your window dressings, even if not your windows themselves. But you can, so many Canberra homes have enormous potential to reduce the amount of energy they actually need to keep them at comfortable temperatures. So do that first. And we do this with reno after reno after reno, take them from being on central ducted gas to having just usually a split system in the main living area, and maybe something, an infrared panel or under tile heating in the bathrooms, because people have had terrifying experiences in cold bathrooms. But generally our houses don't have any heating in the bedrooms, because once you insulate a house well and draft seal, the people sleeping in a bedroom generate enough heat to keep them comfortable. So it takes a big shift in thinking, but an energy efficient house doesn't need a centralised ducted system necessarily. So
Jenny, can I just add in there, Jenny, if people, think that's the craziest thing they'd ever heard, could I suggest it's not, but don't take my word for it, and really don't take your word for it either. There's lots and lots of online tools.
Absolutely.
Oh, hang on a minute. We're frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'll keep talking even though I'm frozen, because I look scary, but I'm not. There's lots and lots of online tools where people can actually go down to to the hardware store. There's a video on how to identify drafts in your house to draft seal. Walk into the hardware shop, buy the 5 things on the list that it says, go home and actually have a go yourself and really see if you can you notice the difference. They're really, really do-it-yourself kind of things, and there's videos on how to do it. We certainly have some on the ACSmart website, and they are step-by-step things on how to do it. So, don't trust Jenny and don't trust myself. Go and have a look and see if you can make a change in that space.
I like to think you can trust me, but you're right. There's loads and loads of resources out there. And Green It Yourself by my good friend Lish Fayer, My Efficient Electric Home. There's a wealth of information, but it's $5 tubes of caulking agent, a $20 caulking gun. I would suggest people invest in a slightly better caulking gun so you don't get RSI from your draft sealing. But yeah, it's really simple stuff and it delivers huge, huge bang for buck.
And before you made any investment, I would suggest that's step 1. And step 2 is, if you're not sure, don't make a big investment, get some advice. And a lot of advice out there is free. So,
Absolutely.
Get on the phone to the ACSmart team and say, do you think it's 2 split systems or 1? Talk about your house, show us your plans. But there's lots of free advice out there.
Absolutely.
So that was a question from Ian, who's actually very reassured by that answer. So that's good news, Ian. I'm pleased to hear that. A little personal anecdote. I have a 3-bedroom house that was very badly insulated. So we spent quite a bit of effort insulating it before we switched off. Well, we switched off the gas, put in 1 split system in the living room, the same as Jenny's recommending, and then just waited a couple of years to see how it played out. And that's another good way of doing it, is just do a bit at a time. Sometimes it can be a bit difficult to know whether to go and invest in that big system or whether to go step by step, but you can actually go step by step. Eventually we put another one in the bedrooms because of COVID and needing to be at home all day and all night and not leaving the house. But there is that flexibility to take it step by step and just see how it actually works out for you. So I'm glad that we've looked at that one. I'm going to go to the next question. Ben, this might be one for you. You might be able to help us with this one. How does buying a new electric heat pump for hot water compare with the cost of running an existing electric hot water system on off-peak electricity? And I guess I will also add to that question around potentially running your electric hot water system off your solar might be another thing to take into consideration there. Because these heat pumps, they are at the moment, they are still quite a big upfront cost, aren't they? The hot water heat pumps. I mean, they're wonderful, they're fabulous, they're very efficient, but they can be quite expensive.
Yeah, so the first thing is that solar is far cheaper than off-peak hot water. Once you've got off-peak, there's no real point using it. Well, sorry, once you've got solar, there's no point really using off-peak because it's not the cheapest form anymore. Second thing is I actually just did this. I put a heat pump in at my house, so it was $4,800 to purchase the unit. There's about a $1,200 small technology certificate rebate, of which that paid for my plumber.
So Ben, that is the federal rebate that's part of the old renewable energy scheme for small appliances, and that's something that the plumber or the electrician organises for you, isn't it? Pretty much.
I ended up
they give you that
buying the tank and then paying the plumber and then claiming it myself.
Yeah.
But it was, so if you're just looking at the difference in costs, so certainly with a coefficient of performance of 1, it'll be 1/5 of the cost. So let's say you're spending $2,000 a year on your electricity bill. Let's say around about a third of that went to hot water. You could be sort of saving sort of $600 a year. But with a $5,000 in purchase, so the payback period ranging from say 6 to 10 years or so. But if your old hot water system breaks, don't put money into a gas hot water system. Don't put money into a resistive hot water. The difference in replacing your hot water system with something that's inefficient compared to replacing it with something that is efficient is really where you see the great payback periods. Certainly my electricity bill last month was $15. I have solar, I have a heat pump hot water system. There's just, I have an electric vehicle. It's just amazing how much less energy you use if you take these steps and insulate your house and do other things like that.
And one of the issues that comes up frequently for us when we talk about this is that if you've got a bit of capital to spend, you can actually, do all of these things. But and it is a little bit like that. It can be a little bit capital intensive. But what you actually do notice is that your running costs come right down. So for people who have issues with maintaining the running costs of running a home, sometimes making that investment, if you can, if the cost of capital is quite low, which it is at the moment, and you can tack that onto your home loan or something like that, then that can actually mean that your running costs come right down. And that's something just worth thinking about. And it also links into those no interest loans that the government's thinking of offering for some of these appliances that might actually help people with that initial cost of capital and then be able to pay some of that back. I've got a couple more questions I'm going to jump to. Is there going to be a repeat of the 1970s once everyone switches to electricity for cheaper charges, then makes gas cheaper until everyone switched back to gas? Look, I think that we think, or that we hope fervently that there's not, because basically at the core of this debate is the fact that gas is a fossil fuel. And what we're trying to do is phase out fossil fuels so we can prevent climate change. And I think where the question kicks in, and it's interesting, is about, is the infrastructure for gas going to be used for other fuels that are delivered as a gas? So for example, hydrogen. And there are lots of complexities around that, but that is something that we do address on the website. Our view at the moment is that hydrogen obviously would need to be produced using renewables for it to be a renewable hydrogen. And there's a lot of loss of efficiency. So if you have a solar panel and it makes 100 units of energy, but then you use the 100 units of energy to make hydrogen, and then you basically lose 30, maybe 20 to 30% of your units of energy in the conversion. And then you put it in a pipe so you can send it out to people's houses to run heating systems that actually aren't as potentially as efficient as some of the electric systems. So our sense at the moment is for residential fuel that it's not necessarily a go, or there may well be, hopefully, a role for hydrogen potentially in transport fuels going forward. But I think that's why we're not going to go back to natural gas. There's no doubt that the gas industry are pushing this very hard as, the gas-led recovery, and they're trying to make that happen. But that's part of what this is all about, is trying to demonstrate that the demand is dropping for gas in Australian residences. So there's another question coming in. Is there a way to have heat pump hot water in apartments? We currently have electric hot water service inside a cupboard. I'd probably start answering that one by saying it can be quite challenging depending on what your infrastructure looks like, what your building is like, what it's made of, how much space you've got inside your home. But heat pump hot water systems do require a tank, but you can have your tank inside the house, and you can have your, what's it called, guys? Mental blank, the unit that the heat pump itself can sit outside the house. Jenny, this is what you've done in your house, isn't it?
Yeah, in my case, the tank sits in a cupboard in my laundry. I call my laundry a luxury dog kennel, so it gently warms the dog's little space under that laundry bench. Yeah, look, it's great. It just makes it super efficient again. You know, if you do install hot water heat pumps outside, and we do install a lot outside as well, you know, all the piping gets well insulated and things. So they're still incredibly efficient, but you can tuck them inside as well.
So it's probably just about whether logistically you can actually find a way of installing it on either on your balcony, and you've got space on the inside of your house. And also, I'm not sure about the variety of sizes of tanks that they come in at the moment. Australia's been quite slow to adopt heat pump hot water technology compared to other countries, but I presume that the market will continue to expand, and hopefully the prices will drop because it's a very energy efficient way of making hot water. Ben, did you have anything to add to that?
Not only just that instantaneous hot water systems for electric are making a small comeback as a replacement of gas instantaneous in apartments, but there really is an issue with where do you put the tank and where do you put the heat pump, but certainly the balcony will work if you're happy to duct it.
Yeah. Somebody's got the last question here is, when will the no interest loan scheme for solar, etc., so it's solar, batteries and hot water heat pumps will be made public on offer? I think that's probably a question for ACSMART, but I'm pretty sure they don't know the answer yet. But it is in the parliamentary agreement. So I do know that it sits at the top of their list in terms of implementation, but it probably requires a budget.
It does, and with COVID this year and the delay in the federal budget, our ACT budget had a delay in delivery as well. So we are working very, very hard at the moment, and I'm about to do some more of that work when I'm finished here tonight to try and get that done. I would keep an eye on the media. It's a commitment by the government, and it's certainly very well supported by Minister Rattenbury in this space through that parliamentary agreement. So I would suggest that it'll be New Year, being the 1st of December. We won't probably pull anything off this year, but I would suggest keeping an eye out for early before next year, and I would suggest earlier, first half of next year rather than second half of next year. But keep an eye out on the media, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot about it.
Great. Okay. Well, and on that note, we are going to wrap up. I did want to take this opportunity to just say an additional thank you to the I've lost the EPSDD, Environment Planning Sustainable Development Directorate, because as many of you may know, the Make the Switch website was developed by the Conservation Council with a community zero emission grant that we received in 2019. So the ACT government actually did fund the development of this website in the main, and we're very grateful to them for their support for that and for taking a chance on us to actually produce it. And it does look fabulous. So congratulations to Kirsten and all the rest of the team who actually pulled that together. It's been a really great product for us to be able to talk about and to talk about this issue with people, because people always have so many different questions. So I'm going to have to wrap up now. I can see another little question coming in from Mr. iPhone, so I'm not sure who that is, about Origin laying pipes on the ocean, but I don't know about Origin and what they're up to. All I can say is tell them you don't want any more gas, I think. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you very much to our presenters this evening, to the ACSMART Households team, to Ben Murphy and to Jenny Edwards. Thank you so much for your time, both on the project and tonight presenting. My sincere apologies for the glitch earlier in the evening, the irony of having no power. I apologise for that. I bolted back into the office and it's been all good since then. The Conservation Council is run with support from the ACT government, but also a lot of support from the community and from our member groups. And so, you know, we always like to encourage you to think about how you might be able to support us, whether you'd like to volunteer, get involved in our campaigns, become a regular donor, all of those things. We love to have people involved. And we'd be very keen to have anyone who's on the call give us, you know, if anyone on the call needs further information, please feel free to give the office a call or drop us an email through the website, and we can provide you with as much information as we can. You can also sign up for our regular newsletter, the Yellow Box Monthly newsletter, at our website, conservationcouncil.org.au. So on that note, I'm going to say a good evening. We're right on time. I wish you all the very best. I think the storm has passed through for those of you that got stranded at the office. And we will look forward to seeing you at our next Environment Exchange event, which will probably be early 2021. So that's it from us. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You did a good job of keeping that to time. Yeah, she did.